I'm back. Well, what have we got today? Well, we've got something that might have just been hyped to the other side of the moon, the dark side. Yeah, or it may not have. Now, just before we jump in, head first, into what's inside this thing, let's have a listen at how it sounds. And then we'll come back and do the inside. Then we'll come out, have a look at the controls and the rest. Then we'll take a real good look at the software. Now then, with amps like that one and that one on these premises, I think it doesn't take really too much to figure out whether this is going to be one of them, or in fact neither of them. Yeah, I have an open mind myself, but now you've heard the tones, let's go and have a look at what's inside the box, and then we'll take a closer look at what's inside the unit. Okay, well, yeah, this is how it comes. Let's have a look what's in the box. I have opened the box before, but I've never actually had the unit out. This is exactly as it comes. We get that. We get a couple of bits and pieces. Register your product. And for warranty information and so on and so forth. Well, I'll leave them in there for now. And we also get some feet. We get a sort of power supply that we'll take a look at in a moment, and something that can connect this thing to a PC, and that's just about it. I'm going to need them later, I'm afraid. So there it is. There's not really much to see. So what we're going to do is whip these screws off and things like that, and take a closer look. That's what I think. Okay, well, there's not a huge amount of things to look at here. But there are one or two. You can see that this PCB has absolutely been made on a machine. Now, more about where it's made and how it's made a bit later, but you can see these chips here. I've photographed a few of them, and yeah, you can get a good idea of the sort of quality of this. It's as good a quality as anything I've seen, so no problem there. But of course, I want to have a look underneath this board where there's a lot more things going on, so I'm just going to pull that apart now so we can get to have a look what's going on inside this thing. Okay, well, here we are a little bit closer. You don't get much closer than this. And one of the things I just want to draw your attention to, which is a little bit weird, if I say so myself, are these little washers. Yeah, because scarily, there's 3 of them on every connector, if you can see that. Yeah, that's all a bit, well, at best, it's strange. They're being used as packing for the unit. Oh, I think I'm a washer missing there, but I'll find that a bit later. I just wanted to show you that, because that's sort of rather unusual. I haven't seen that actually like that before. But hey ho, let's go a bit further and take a closer look at the other components. So I've moved the top board back a bit, and the bottom board's just down in there, but there's nothing to see on that except basically it's where the top connections and controls fasten onto that board, and they come down to the main board with this connector here, which you've got to be very careful with, of course. Okay, we'll take a quick look at the chips down there. You can see that they're all well-known stuff, really. And we'll be taking a look at those a little bit later. in more depth than what they are here. I think on this piece of video, we want to do really is to focus on the overall quality of this unit. And you can see really that it's all pretty good. In fact, it's as perfect as you could get. But do bear in mind that these connectors up the top, yeah, there they are. You can see that they're basically plastic connections, or plastic connectors should I say, and they go straight onto the board. There is one good thing about it. There is two actual full-size MIDI connectors, which is nice. And yeah, well, all the rest, well, what can I say, except, oh, there's the third one. We can put them back. So have a good look around. They all look pretty good to me. And yeah, we'll talk about the various chips a little bit later on. But do bear in mind that there's a chip not been fitted there on the board. And there's something not been fitted there on the board. It makes you wonder what else is coming, doesn't it? Or not. But yeah, well, it was there on the design. It might be just for, sometimes they have connectors like that for testing. But sometimes they don't. Okay, well, this is going to be a very quick run through over the top and the back for now. And hopefully we'll be able to see most of this stuff later on, particularly with these menus, model selections and all the rest of it. Within the software, I haven't seen the software personally yet, so I can't tell you whether it does or it doesn't let you do things more easily or whatever, because going down through all these can be a bit of a bind. Sometimes it can be a bit, well, more trouble than what it's worth faffing around. But let's have a quick look. It's a very quick overview. We've got a thing here called model selector, hold for setup, which you could. Well, let's take a quick look. Naming, bank nav, lots of stuff in here. Cabs, user mode, external control, dual switching, I think that is. Don't know about that. MIDI channel, MIDI through, trim in, main volume, interface, operations, USB out, info, lots of stuff, factory reset and so on and so forth. And I'm not really going to do any of that for now. Yeah, UK 800 will do. You can see as we move further around, there's push buttons here, there's push buttons here, hold for save, this sort of thing. This is this type of interface where you're faffing around with controls a lot. It's another one here, hold for alt. So you've got the standard parameters. On this it's parameter, gain, bass, mid, treble and volume. You can see them quite easily. But if we move into the alt mode, I guess that we then get reverb, compressor, noise gate, presence, depth and so on and so forth. We've also got a bank down and a bank up. We've also got an A, a B and a C. So that's a quick overview of the top. We can sort of flip around. Yeah. Accordingly. Yeah, let's go around the back and see what this beast's got by way of input and output. Yeah, well, that's good enough for me right now. If you notice, it's a quick run around. We've got an input, which is pretty obvious what that is. We've got an output, a left and a right, and it says mono on the left, which is, again, the normal run-of-the-mill that everybody does. We've got an output for headphones, which is nice. What I really like is to see these two. We've got proper MIDI ports that aren't giving us any aggravation anytime soon, and none of these little 2.5 or 3.5 mil rubbish connectors. These are built up for the job. We've got an external control there, which, again, more about that later, maybe, probably, possibly. We've got a USB connector that can allow you to connect it to the PC, which I think is pretty much essential with this particular product. And we've got what I like to see, a 9-volt power, and it's negative center, positive external around the edge, that is. It's a standard rolling connection that power supply that I've been using a lot. I didn't use theirs as it happens, but they're all pretty much the same except for the amperage or the current, and the rolling one that I've got's fine. We'll take a look at the other power supply anytime, well, coming up soon. There are all the FCC regulation certifications and the rest of it. Well, I'll call them that for now. We've got a CE, we've got a UKCA, which has been postponed a couple of years, I'm told. We've got a ROSH compliance. We've got, I think we've got Wii on there, yeah. We've got this other one that's somewhere else. This is somewhere else too. But most importantly, I didn't really come round here to show you the serial number or the approvals really, because these guys are in Europe and they know what will happen if they make something that isn't compliant. They'll be closed down by the boys in Germany or somewhere out there. Anyway, the important bit is this here. Designed and made in Italy. Now, fancy that. Designed and made in Italy. Isn't that a nice change? And I'll tell you what, it is, because when you look inside this device, it's really good quality. Let's hope the boards were actually made in Italy too, and all the rest of it. I know it says designed and made in Italy, but that doesn't always mean much, does it? Well, actually, just before I do go back, let's take a look at this power supply. You know what I think about all the power supplies. Some of them are not very good. Take a look at this one. Yeah. What can I say about that? Well, it has got a UK connector. It's got one of them, if that's where you come from. It's definitely got one of them. Yeah, USA. And it's got a shaver thing for wherever else you want to go. So this should just basically just clip in. And it does, and it doesn't just pull out, or does it? It can do. So when you get your hands underneath to pull it out, this one's not bad as it happens. It's not bad at all. But you can, at least you can remove it if you want to. Yeah, so what is it? My God, it's so small I can't read it. They're getting like that these days. And I might be semi-blind, but I'm not that blind. This is like micro. So overall, it's not the worst power supply I've seen, not by a very long way. And one of the things I can tell you is this one was made by Golden Prophet Electronics Company, Chengwu Village, Shaiyao Village Committee, Guangdong, China. So it is a Chinese power supply. What else did you expect? This unit's made well enough. I don't have any problems with that. But if you notice, well, you don't notice, but you're going to notice now, all you get is let me put my fingers over that, you get a register product and download the apps. Well, you can do that. And then you get, for the complete user manual, go and visit here. So once again, you've got to go and print it out, or you could pull it down onto your tiny little phone, and then you won't be able to read it properly. But that sort of thing, unless you're messing around for hours. I always recommend that, well, you should print one out. So this type of device is great if you're into PCs, maybe Macs as well, like I said, or not. And yeah, not really much else. The only other thing that I didn't actually mention is this darn thing's got no on and off switch. It's one of them that you'll leave on, and in 2 years' time it'll still be going, or the display up front here will have worn out, among other things. Did they test it for 2 years? I bet you they didn't. Anyway, enough of that for now. Next time you see me, well, in about 20 seconds, we're going to discuss the chips, and then we're going to get on a bit more. Ah, you're there. Well, here we go, a little bit further down the road. I have played this thing, along with Alan, as you might have seen, or not by now. It doesn't really matter if you did, but that was one of the choices we used was number 14, a dumbler. Yeah, you can go and figure out what that is unless you dumbler. Anyway, what we're about at the moment on this little section is we're going to just quickly cover the chips that are involved that I found in there. Could be some more or not. Yeah, I've only found one device up to now where I didn't find every chip, or the ones that really mattered. But I don't think this is one of them. I think I've got most of them here. We're going to start off with this W25Q128JV chip, and you'll be all going, what the hell's he talking about? Well, what he's talking about, this is a serial flash memory chip. You can see it on the screen. Yeah, there it is. You can see it on the screen. It's pretty boring. It provides a storage solution for systems with limited space, pins and power, it says here. The 25Q series offers flexibility and performance well beyond ordinary serial flash devices. They're ideal for code shadowing of to the RAM, executing code from dual or quad, XPI or XIP, and storing voice, text and data. The device operates on a 2.7 to 3.6 volt power supply with current consumption as low as 1 microamp, which is pretty low by anybody's standards. The device is offered as space-saving packages and all the rest. So basically, yeah, that's basically what it is. It's a serial flash memory chip. Well, the next one up is a W982 5G 6KH. Doesn't mean anything to you, and it didn't mean much to me either. This is a Winbond chip, as indeed the last one was. That's the maker. And it says in here, well, cutting a long story short, I could list all of this out. I don't think I will. You can see the chip on the screen now, and it's basically DRAM. Yeah, it's memory, a high-speed synchronous dynamic RAM organised as 4M words times 4 banks times 16 bits. It delivers a data bandwidth of up to 200 megawords per second to fully comply with the personal computer industrial standard. So that's what it is. I won't spend long on it, but they are $1.68 each. So once again, not very expensive really. Now believe it or not, there are only 3 chips left, or 3 products left. There might be more than one in there, but I only found what I found, so you've probably seen that already earlier. So let's go with the first one. The first one, these two are quite important, and the last one's very important. The first one is a chip called a PCM 186. This is a 186X 4-channel or 2-channel 192 kilohertz audio ADC, A to D converter basically. Yeah, it's all here. It's all interesting stuff. It says the PCM 186 family of audio front-end devices takes a new approach to audio function integration to ease compliance with European eco-design legislation. I knew the Europeans would be in here somewhere, didn't you? Of course you did. While enabling high-performance end products at reduced cost. The PCM supports single supply operation, blah, blah, blah. But let's talk about a few of the features rather than the sales speak, because the sales speak's just, well, exactly that. It features a high signal-to-noise performance, 110 dB SNR for one of them and 103 dB for the other. I didn't check which. Its ADC sample rate is 8 kilohertz to 192 kilohertz, which is pretty good really, bearing in mind what it's being used for. It's got up to 4 independent ADC channels available. It's single-ended, 2.1 VRMS, full-scale FS input. It's got a differential of 4.2 VRMS FS input. Its hardware control, got a controller chip, software control, PCM 1862, blah, blah, blah. They've got a number of models in this range that work with each other. If you look at the bottom of this, you can quickly see some of the example layouts. In fact, the D2A converter is part of the same series, which is an interesting little thing, really. Yeah, it's a 3.3 volt power supply operation. Note that's in there again. It's got power dissipation at 3.3 volts is less than 85 milliwatts on one of them and less than 145 on the other. It's energy sense audio content detector for audio system wake up or sleep, so it can go asleep. Master or slave audio interface, and its PCB footprint compatibility across all devices, so they all look the same. I could go on more with this, but I'm not really going to. That's what it is. That's the A to D. And scarily, this again is $1.89. This is the next one of the last two. This one's a D2A converter, or a thing called a DAC. DAC. Sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, no clue what it means. Yeah, I have actually, because I've got the sheet and you haven't, but don't worry about that. First of all, let's talk about its applications and its specification. Well, I'll read the top to you. PCM 1789, 24-bit, 192 kHz sampling, enhanced multi-level, I don't know, some letters, stereo, audio, digital, analog converter, which we knew. Its applications include Blu-ray disc players, DVD players, AV receivers, home theatres, car audio external amplifiers, car audio AVN applications, and as I said on the A to D, this series can be chosen from different chips for different uses. So they're not all exactly the same. They're, shall we say, similar. But they have different uses. I'm sure some of the features are slightly different too, maybe. And what I'm going to do is just read out the features, because an A to D and a D to A, these are important aspects when you're talking of a product like this. Very important, along with the processor over there. Anyway, the features include enhanced multi-level Delta Sigma DAC. It's high performance. It says here differential FS equals 48 kHz. THD plus N equals minus 94 dB. SNR is 113 dB. Dynamic range is 113 dB. The sampling rate, again, is 8 kHz to 192 kHz, just as the A to D was. It's got a system clock of 128 FS, 192, 256, 384, 512, 768 and 1152 FS. It's got a differential voltage output of 8 VPP. Analog low pass filter included. 4 times and 8 times oversampling. Digital factor. Passband ripple is 0.0018 dB, which is minuscule. Stop band attenuation minus 75 dB. Zero flags, 16 minus, 20 minus and 24 bits. Flexible audio interface. I won't bore you with too much of this. It gets a bit too much, really. You've got a picture of the chip there. You can see it. They never look much, do they? But there it is, and there is more that you could glean from this. But you know, all you really need to do is to go to Texas Instruments and have a look at the sheet yourself. It's free to look at. And by the way, while we're talking of free or price or anything else, this particular D2A converter is $1.82. And yes, they are out there on the internet. I think the A to D, just looking back at that, was $1.89, and they both from Texas Instruments and both from the same series. Now lastly, we've got the mother the mother processor, that is. Yeah, this one, this is an NXP advanced version of this chip. So NXP have taken the design and purportedly enhanced the chip to be better than an ARM Cortex M7. Yeah, I've got the price here. I'll come back to that in a minute. And you can see down here, there's a whole pile of these chips within the same range from NXP. And if you just look at this, there's 5 pages of it. I'm not going to bore you with all of it. Look at it. It just goes on and on and on. Page after page after page. A lot of people familiar with the ARM Cortex M7. So what it really does is everything that does and maybe a bit more. I'll just read a couple of little bits out here and then we can tell you how much they cost and I can get on with it. Yeah. This one, it's an IMX RT 1060. It's actually a 1061, but that's how the series works. It's part of the 1060 series, if you follow me. It's a new processor family, it says. This was 03-2022 when that was updated, by the way. Yeah, a new processor family featuring NXP's advanced implementation of the ARM Cortex M7 core, which operates at speeds of up to 600 MHz to provide high CPU performance and best real-time response. You know, I've seen this chip, this ARM Cortex M7 series over and over and over in these various devices. They're all using the same damn thing. Fancy that. Anyway, let's carry on a bit further. The IMX RT1060 processor is 1 meg of on-chip RAM. It's 512 kilobytes or kilobytes, can be flexibly configured as TCM or general purpose on-chip RAM. Well, the other 512K is general purpose on-chip RAM anyway. The IMX RT1060 integrates advanced power management modules with DC-DC and LDO that reduces complexity of external power supplies and simplifies power sequencing. And with power supplies like this thing, I can believe it. Yeah, it needs that. Yeah. The IMX RT1060 also provides various memory interfaces, including SD-RAM, we've seen that, raw NAND and flash, raw NAND flash, NOR flash, we've seen this stuff, haven't we? SD eMMC, quad SPI, and a wide range of other interfaces for connecting peripherals such as wireless LANs, Bluetooth, GPS, displays, camera sensors. Not one of them in there, I hope. The IMX RT1060 has rich audio and video features including LCD display, basic 2D graphics, camera interface, believe it or not, SPDIF, and 12S audio interface. The IMX RT1060 has analog interfaces such as ADC, ACMP and TSC. Yeah. It all adds up into being, well, you could carry on. It just carries on page after page. In fact, there's 5 pages of specifications. I'm not going to bore you with all of them. You can see the chip. The chip's definitely up there now. It's a nice looking chip, isn't it? Yeah, doesn't even need a heatsink. It appears. Yeah, package information, plastic package, 196 pin. It's all there. That's what I've got to say about it. That's what it is. And scarily, it is scarily, these cost $7.78 each. Yes, as much as that. You know, that's one of the things that you find, let's move this out of the way. That's one of the things that you find with these devices, whether it's a £270 or $300 device, whether it's a £400 or $450 device, maybe $500 for all I know. Put down in the text how much they cost in America. That'd be interesting. Or whether it's a £1,000 device or something very near, often you'll see the same rigmarole going on inside. That is very, very similar, or the same chips, same processors, same this, same that, same the other. And the only real difference is what it purports to do. And that's an important aspect when you're looking at any product like this. What really separates it out from everything else? Now, a lot of guys will say, being on the internet, being what you are, oh, it's the tone. This is better than brand X. They could cite, for example, a Kemper amp. They could say, oh yeah, this can capture it. It's captured thousands of amps and they're all there and it's awesome. It sounds exactly like the real thing. Now, some people have been on the internet and done a comparison between one of these and a Kemper. Now, there is a difference. Now, whether that difference is in the tone of the particular amp, let's say you go and capture an amp and maybe its speakers and you do the whole rigmarole, you do the whole thing on a Kemper and you do the whole thing on one of these. Well, they should be identical, shouldn't they? Same guitar, same lead, same everything. It's even the same mains that we're paying more than it's worth for at the moment. Yeah, everything would be the same player, the same everything. If you want to put down in the text whether you think that, oh, they would sound different or not, assuming all the settings are the same, everything's the same, remember that. Is one going to sound different than the other? Yeah, that's a great question. Nobody's answered it on the internet. I know that much. Now, some of the last bits about the chip, I mean, we're talking generally in this area, is that, well, It's good that they've made it in Italy. But did they make it in Italy? Or did they buy the pre-assembled boards? Did they fit the pre-assembled boards into this device in Italy? And then it becomes made in Italy. Now, I know that on Fractal Audio, I was speaking to a guy by email just today who was saying, oh yeah, it's this, it's that, the other, and that. I thought to myself, you know, when I look at a device like this, any device like this, I don't want to single out Fractal Audio. You can single out what you can, but in the case of Fractal Audio, I was able to trace the motherboard actually coming from Hong Kong and China, all the way on boat, and the cases and one or two other things, all the way over to America where they got dropped off. I can't do that on this one, although I've had a bit of a dig. So I can't say to you that this board, this PCB, isn't made in Italy. It could be. Who knows? Who knows? I can't find out. But some devices that say they're made in a particular place aren't. In my opinion, it's just an opinion, by the way, that's a misleading thing. And anybody that does that, I don't care what company it is, it's misleading. It's just simply misleading. Listen, if it's made in China, say so. Why don't you just put assembled in America or assembled in Italy, or rather than made in? Made in means made, you know, built from the bits. Like Marshall. Some of the Marshall stuff, not all of it. But when Marshall say made in England for a, I don't know, if that JVM was still available over there, it really is made in England. Whereas a lot of these other devices that I see, yeah, they're not. And I just wanted to raise that point as part of the video. Yeah, I'm not particularly singling this one out, I hasten to add. So I don't want you to think that I am. I'm not really singling out Fractal Audio, but that was one that I could actually prove with documentation. Okay, well, I don't know whether you've actually heard me and Alan playing this yet. We did a couple of tracks. Well, we did a few tracks, 2 each, basically. And I remember Alan was using, what was he using? I can't remember. One thing I can remember is that the Dumble, or the Dumbler, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, was actually used for one particular track, like a blues track that was. And I want to discuss it because it's important to discuss it, because when you actually watch the video, if you haven't already, you'll be able to compare me and Alan directly. And I'm not talking about playing, I'm talking about tone. When we set this up for me and Alan, we basically used the same settings, the same amp, the same cab, the same everything, except for one thing. He used a Les Paul, actually it was a Tokai, but it was a Japanese Tokai that had got a set of active pickups installed. Yeah, there was a set of those Fluence pickups. You've seen them. Yeah, Fishman Fluence pickups. Humbuckers, and there they were in his guitar, as you will see wherever you get to see it in this video. And I used exactly the same settings, exactly the same everything, except I used the SG over there that had got Seymour Duncan pickups and regular humbuckers. So if there is a difference between how this handles humbuckers and how it handles active pickups, such as the Fluence pickups, then that's a valid thing to go and have a look at. They're both together and they both show the same Dumbler on. Now I really do want to cover this manual aspect because nobody's talking about it anywhere. Nobody. Oh, you want to do all the thing on your little phone? Well, wait until I tell you what you're going to be facing. Ho, ho, ho. I don't mean somebody standing on a corner. These are the two pieces of paper that were in the box. In fact, they were virtually the only two pieces of paper. One said, for the complete user manual, visit blah, blah, blah. And the other one was register it and download the app. And there they are, singular pieces of paper, and I've thrown them over there. Well, I did as they said. Here it is. I didn't bother put the front on this one up to now. No doubt I will. This one here says, TONEX pedal, quick start guide. It's about 5 or 6 or 7 pages. And I just love the way they've got the background in black so you can't actually print it very well. Mr. IK Multimedia, if you ever get to see this, that is. And then we move on to the amplitube TONEX pedal user manual. This goes for 30 pages, which is not too bad. We'll soon be past that. And then we move on to the ToneNet quick start guide. And this one's only 13 pages. I just thought I'd do that, you know. I like that. Yeah, and then we move on to the Amplitude 5 manual. This is the 4th manual that I've bothered to print out. And this particular manual goes on. It's a nice enough manual, don't get me wrong. But it does go for 110 pages. Yes, 110 pages. And if you think you're going to nicely just thumb through that on your little iPhone or whatever phone you've got, best of luck, because you ain't. But that's not the worst of it. You're not going to believe what I tell you. Honestly, you're just not. You're just not. As well as having those 4 manuals there, there's another couple. And the another couple refer to really from what I see of them, you've got something relating to the IRs, page after page, lots of pages. And then you've got something else relating to the sounds, page after page. And another thing relating to some custom shop sounds, I think they were. I'm doing this top of my head, remember. But the last one was a manual that was a little bit thicker. Yeah. Well, 550 pages, give or take 1 or 2. Yeah, for the effects. Oh, you don't want to know about the effects? No. Okay. Really? You don't want to know? Well, I think you do. Because once you get to that software that we're coming up to next, there's so many of them, and there's so much of them, that you, unless you understand them already, which I doubt, there's so many in there that, well, you won't have seen them all. I pretty much guarantee that. And plus the other sections of the manual. Overall, you're on probably 750 pages of manual. And like I said, if you think that you're going to go thumbing through when you're at a gig, now where was that page? No, listen, it's comical, right? It's comical. You'll learn as you go. It is a complex device because there's so much learning. It's a bit like the fractal. It's a bit like the fractal audio. If you want the truth, the fractal audio device was exceedingly complex. Now, I'm not saying this is at that level of complexity. It isn't. To be fair to it, it isn't. But what it's done is it's taken a brilliant device and sort of watered it down because, well, I'll put it to you this way. You wouldn't produce a 550, well, let's call it a 750-page manual if it wasn't necessary. I don't think anybody could argue with that. You don't produce 750 pages unless it's necessary to do that. You put down in the text what you think, whether you think that matters, whether you think it doesn't, or try and explain why IK Multimedia have probably spent several months writing a manual that's irrelevant. So next is the software. I'm going to go and set it all up. I'm not going to bore you with any of that. I'm going to set it all up, make it connect, and then we can get down to having a look at the actual software. Now, I'm not saying the software's bad. I'm not saying it's hyper complex and nobody would ever understand it. I don't know none of that. But you make your own mind up whether all those 750 pages are relevant to the software or whether IK Multimedia was wasting its time bothering to do it because you knew what a foot pedal is. Okay, well, for this very quick demonstration, I haven't put the microphone on. I just want to show you the screen and the product manager and what happens when you try and install it. And it's all over the internet about this product and this product manager. And by the way, without it, you can't install anything. So I'm not going to do much talking. I'm just going to show you. Watch on the screen what happens, and I'll be back. That yellow is because so far I've had to install this darn thing as administrator. It's not the answer, that isn't, but let's carry on and watch what happens. All good so far. But as soon as I try and download, the whole thing will hang. Like now. One click. It's all gone. Okay, well, I hope you get that. I'll talk more about it when we go back up top. Ho, ho, ho. I bet they don't show you any of this stuff in the sales videos where they've probably given a pile of these devices away or loaned them or whatever they do. But that, I'll call it the program manager. They might call it a product manager, I think. That's the name they use. But it seems to have pretty major problems when you're trying to install it. For example, on this machine, on Windows 10, I might have to go and get another machine because I filled the forms out online for help, which is very, very difficult to find other than forums and that sort of thing. And when you look over the internet, this particular problem's reported in loads of places, and it refers to the writing to the directory in particular, which I've done a bit of work on that, and I can't resolve it any simple way from the information that I've got. But it did say on the form I filled out online that it'll be back to me in 2 or 3 days. What a classic killer. So the supplier program that's unregistered on Microsoft, by the way, that's the first problem with it. And of course, as soon as it's unregistered on Microsoft products, what happens is Microsoft treats it, I believe, very differently than a program that's been registered properly with Microsoft. Listen, this is the first inklings of problems. I'm going to have to go and get my other machine. I won't be back to this till tomorrow now. But all I can tell you, if this is the standard of software that they're putting out, and it's not even registered with Microsoft, well, I'm gritting my teeth already. But make no mistake, if it works great on the other machine, then great. And if it doesn't work great on the other machine, I'll be telling you all the problems all the way, right to the end. And you make your own mind up whether this product's one of the greatest things out there and it's better than Kemper, as some of these people tell you. And by the way, I never had a single software problem with Kemper ever since 2011. Says a lot, doesn't it? Oh, there you are. Yeah, well, here I am. Yeah, what a nightmare. Now, you might say to me, Johnny, that software's a piece of cake. Well, it could have been, but in this case it wasn't. If you notice, I'm using now a different PC. And yeah, it was a total nightmare to try and install it on, of all things, Windows 10, the latest version that's available here in March 2023. I ended up having to get out this other one with Windows 11 on it. And generally it installed onto that fine, but I never did find the answer to the Windows 10, and IK Multimedia, true to their word, never came back to me in any of the time that I had available, let's put it that way. They were talking about as much as 3 days to respond, and can you imagine doing a gig? You're getting set up for a gig. Oh yeah, we'll give you a call in a few days or a week, or I don't know. Who knows? They never got back to me, so bear that one in mind, won't you? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at the software, in particular with the Librarian. I aren't bothered about all the rest, and I could spend, honestly, a week with this software. There's that much software, and that again is one of the problems that you will have as soon as you think you're just going to go, oh yeah, that'll do. It isn't like a tube amp, no. It is what it is. It's got presets in there. You could just use it as standard and twiddle with the knobs. Yeah, that'll work. But as soon as you come back to the software, you know, bearing in mind that, well, the clue's in the name, IK Multimedia. Yeah, Multimedia. So, yeah, they're a software vendor that's had some hardware made. It seems, well, they are. And, yeah, oh, you don't like software? Well, you really need to consider whether this product's actually for you. Me personally, nah, I've got better things to do than prat around for 60 hours making the software work or whatever it is. And even then, you've got to spend time. Yeah, don't forget them 500 and odd pages that you could go and have a look at. Here we are, taking a quick look at the Librarian. There is the modeler aspect. I won't go in there, I could be for a week. And there is the, when it eventually wakes up. Yeah, I'm sure they could. There's the other setting that you can faff around with, but I'm only really interested in the Librarian section. So there. Yeah, so here it is. If we look down here, we can see that we've got all the presets in the banks, loads of banks, loads of presets, tells you all about them. It's quite nice. I can hit one of these and that's now over actually on the TONEX itself. It's that simple. And of course, if you look down here, you've got all these various things that you can sort of look at as you go. High gain, max on OD808. We can, well, you can see what's going on. Yeah. It's a funny thing about this software, it doesn't, even if I open it up full, it doesn't actually open up full. It opens to what it wants to give you, which is never very useful. Not at least in my view. And if I was to choose, by the way, a model on the actual TONEX, as per normal, you can see it whipping through them and all the rest. We can have a look at various aspects of that, and yeah, it is what it is. But you can whip down them, all very nice. They're on presets. We've got models we can look at. The Blue Screamer, that sounds bad. Reminds me of the Missus somehow. Yeah, Tube Screamer, yeah, Rectifier, Tunnel Vision. I'm not going to spend any time on it. I don't really want to. It's not for me, but it could be for you. And depends what you like. For me, the fact that it doesn't even fit on the screen, the fact that I'd have to spend a month faffing around with all these other things. And this is only the TONEX application, by the way. This is not the other one. Yeah, another thing about it that I thought was weird, you've got to go down here, go down to your apps and go to IK Multimedia, and all the bits that you've installed are down here. And they don't even put a thing on the desktop. I know I could right button and pin to the taskbar, so to speak. I could do that. Well, let's do it. I have done that. There it is. But it's a bit weird, that is, bearing in mind it's a multimedia company. I don't know. Right from the off, it doesn't help me much. So, yeah, you can go a bit bigger with that or not. You can look at your bits and pieces here or not. We can click on the banks or not. Can we? We should be able to. And it's on the TONEX is connected with version 1.04. I can do a right button like that. I can do a quick rescan while it syncs. I'll let it do that. It's not that fast over MIDI. But what is? There you go. So down here we've got various tone models and presets. These are presets. I click that. You can see hopping around here. Don't really give me much to go at. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, no description. Nice. You can see it moving around. If we change product, or should I say, if we change what's in there, I don't want to cancel it. I want to go to that one, and I can say, well, I want this. There it is, the fridge. Reminds me again of the Missus somehow. Anyway, enough's enough. You get an idea of it. It's a Librarian. You can go to this bit over here called ToneNet, which allows you to share presets and things like that. And by the way, you know, you can actually go and capture with this device, which I've no intention of bothering to do, because, to be honest, for me, this review isn't one of the best reviews that I enjoy. It isn't. It's I'd much prefer to see a nice, decent tube amp to review. So there. That's all you're going to get out of me. And just so that people do actually understand that I have got amplitude 5 on here, and there it is running. I could spend all day, like I said. I'm not going to. It is what it is, and I'm not putting any more time behind it. To be honest, it gets a bit depressing sometimes with all this software and the lengths you have to go to. Yeah, for anything meaningful. Yeah, we can all mess around a little bit, but there's so much to go through. I'm not even going to try. Other people over the internet will have a whole video or 3 over just this one application, and that wasn't really what it was really all about. It was about the TONEX pedal. This is just happening to be one of the things that you can use. Well, you're right. I didn't do a very good review of the software, and to be honest, I don't want to. It's not what I want to be sitting here doing. I'm doing the review, but I'm not doing the hours and hours on end of practice and messing around with bits of software just to show you some review. Just take my word for it. If you don't like software, well, you might like it, but I suspect you'll like it less. Well, Tony, you've harped on about the software, now you don't like it and all the rest, and I understand that myself. Oh, I am Tony. It's a personal thing. But let's talk about a few other things. There are some very good things to do with the product. For example, this one, if you was to talk of warranty, you know, the thing that you might need 3 months after you buy it, or 23 months after you buy it. Well, the good news is you're covered for 2 years on this piece of hardware. I'm not sure what warranty they give on the software. It's probably nothing, the same as all software vendors don't give any warranty on any software, and even whether it works, do they? None of them do, not Microsoft, well, nobody. That's the best way to think about that, and yeah, it's no different here, right? If you sit back and you think of some of the things that I've been talking about with this, the quality of the product's great. The software's, well, extensive, let's call it that. You're never going to get that review from me, like I said. The warranty's good. I like the hardware. I like the chips. I like the rest of it. I like most of everything about it. Even its price is good. It's just the software. And for me, I don't come from, well, I do come from software, strangely enough, in the day job, and hardware too. But I couldn't sit here, you know, I'm supposed to be playing guitar, not sitting here learning bits of software. God help you if you try and do it on a phone. Best of luck. So, yeah, not much else to say. I'm not really going to cover any more on this review. To be honest, it's not for me. We did use it as it came out the box, and those audio files are floating around in this video, and you can get to hear them, and they are just guitar tracks over backing tracks, and end of story. You know, one thing about amplifiers, and that's what this is talking about really, amplifiers and speaker cabs and simulations of them. Listen, there's none of this faffing around like you can for hours on, honestly, hours and hours on end with this thing, in either that one, this one here, or any one of the other 20 that I've got in this studio. There's none of it. I can spend 5 minutes and get a great sound out of virtually every real tube amp in the place. And as far as speakers go, well, to be honest, again, it's a personal opinion, but nearly every speaker, not everyone, but nearly every speaker in this place is a Marshall. It's a Celestion in a Marshall cab. There's a number of different Celestions I've got, but they all sound perfect for what we do here, and that is rock style music. There's nothing else to really want to get to grips with, unless you're one of them people who loves faffing around, and this is perfect for that. Yeah, you can be faffing around over the next 6 months and while you really get to grips, but of course as you're faffing around they'll be introducing some more stuff for you to learn, so it never ends. So the tube amps for me are still number one, no ifs or buts about that, and I wanted to say that because this is telling you, and the people that have done all the sales promotions and the rest, throw your amp away basically. You won't need that anymore. I beg to differ. You know, I've wanted to move away. I mean, this is a sign of the music business as it is today. I've wanted to move away from all these simulators. If you haven't noticed, when did I last do an amp review? My God, it's literally years since I last did an amp review ahead. You know, a tube amp. Ask yourself why. Well, it's so simple. It's just that there are so few being made. Oh, maybe you never noticed it. Maybe you're going to tell me that this is the way to go and tube amps are dead, man. They're all dead because of the simulators. That isn't true. That isn't the reason that they're all dead. The reason they're all dead relates to components, to China, to people working from home who don't want to go to work. I could name it, I could carry on all day telling you all the reasons. And there is no innovation. The newest amp I've just seen, well, there's a couple of them. There's the PRS Hendrix amp, which is hardly a new amp, is it? If it goes back to Hendrix. and then there's the Mark 7, which I looked at the Mark 7. I haven't got one here because I can't get one. This is England. But when I looked at that, I thought to myself, you know what? It's just a Mark 5. Is it really going to be that different than a Mark 5? And I sold my Mark 5 some while back. Bought different amps. Yeah. So, is this the answer? Is this the be-all and end-all of where we're going to go with the music business into simulators and stuff that, well, it sounds reasonable. There's nothing wrong with the sort of sounds, but it's not inspiring. It doesn't even inspire me to want to make this video. Now, okay, blame Tony. It's me. A lot of people say that. Yeah, particularly the ones that are selling it. But, you know, it hasn't been a bad overview. I'm not knocking it in the way that you might think. But if I have a choice between one of these and a tube amp, even if it was a £400 tube amp, I'd probably opt for the tube amp. Yeah, that's a fair way of putting things. So what about the score on this thing? Tony, what would you give it out of a 10? Well, I've got to base it on my own experience of the unit, the software, the manuals, the everything. That's the only way I can give it a score. Let's go through it. On the hardware, it's a 10 out of 10. It's great. Really good piece of hardware. On the software, Oh, that depends which computer you've got. So how should I score it? Should I score it on computer? Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll score it on computer 1 and then computer 2. Right, well, computer 1 gets about 0 out of 10. Why? Well, it never actually installed. And what about the software on computer 2, the one that you've actually seen the screen of? You know, it seemed to work and did all the stuff. Well, it did, but there is just so much to learn. Once again, it's this complexity. By the time you finish messing around, and I don't mean complexity in the respect of press a few buttons and you can make it work. No, you can do that. That's fine. But if you want to know everything there is to know about that software that comes with it, well, one of the things about the software that comes with it, you can carry on buying things forevermore. Yeah, IK Multimedia like to show you all the things that you don't own. And you can go and pay something in, I don't know, some way of, it's like, you're so many points or something like that. They call credits or whatever they call it. I don't have the time for that either. I thought I was getting all the stuff with it, didn't you? Oh, you didn't? Oh, you did? Yeah, you're like me. Yeah, so for computer 2, I'm going to give this software a 6. And it's not that it doesn't eventually work. Well, it does eventually if you've got all those hours to put behind it. And if your time is worth about 3p an hour, yeah, 3p an hour, 3 cents an hour, let's go down that one, then this will be a great device for you. You'll have your 100 hours to put behind it, and then you'll know everything there is to know. And let's not talk about the 550 plus other pages. Take you probably over 750 pages of manual that you're going to use on your little... over and over I could talk about that. So we've got a 6 and a none. Now, if I was going to be nasty, I'd take the 2, add the answers together, and divide by the 2. I won't do that. We'll call it a 6. Yeah, the software I'm not happy with. And the other thing I didn't like was that the applications aren't Microsoft registered. They come up and they say, we've never heard of this software. Do you still want to install it? Screen after screen after screen. I don't like that at all. That's probably one of the reasons why it don't work on Windows 10. Who knows? Will I ever know? Will IK Multimedia even reply to my email? Well, by the time they do, this will be on the internet too late. Sorry, thank you very much. And while we're on the subject of the software, while I was trying to solve that first computer, I just happened to have a scan over the internet to see, well, has anybody else had this problem, or is it just Tony? And scarily, going all the way back to 2021 was the first one I saw. Yeah, I can't make it work either, and I've got this problem. And it was person after person after person, and they usually ended up in the forum. There's a forum for the users. And the forum approach is, yeah, we can't answer it here. It's not what we're here for. You know, this is where you go and see the support for your product, which happened to be the product manager in that case. And yeah, guess what? The support for your product management from IK Multimedia is slow. So I did like the tones though, so let's not write it off, particularly other than the use of the software and the installation of the software and that sort of thing. I like the warranty and the rest of it. Now my reviews are not always as bad as this one. I think I've got to say that. So do subscribe. Yeah, press the subscribe button, ring that bell, choose all for notifications, and it might help me a bit to stay here or not, depending what mood I'm in. But thanks for watching today. And if the review isn't what you thought it would be, well, sadly, don't blame me. Blame the inspirational piece of equipment that I've just spent hours and hours on. Thank you.